Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Marketing Corner.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Woo, 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 woo. All that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Today
Beautiful.
we're recording virtually, so
We are.
it's
like
the
our
classic,
origin.
It's the origin story. Back to
It
origins.
is. Yep.
It's a classic summer holiday planning schedule fuck up.
Yeah, you're getting a nice long holiday, eh?
Yeah.
You're off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like as a founder, are you really off ever? But I'll try.
Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm new at my current job, I only get 2 weeks of vacation, not the 3 like everyone else.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Ooh, too bad.
The Americans
too bad.
listening are like, "What?
What? You get vacation?
You get vacation and
You get
maternity
paid?
leave?" Yes. So this is a summer. We're in our respective homes, getting ready for summer vacation episode.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
It's good.
Deal with it.
It's good.
Yeah.
And one of the things we need to talk about today is first of all, this is episode 121.
120.
120. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. 120. And today we're going to be talking about something you pulled up recently, and I think it's a really interesting topic: Martech stack.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about tools all the time, but like putting together a good stack and like how much of percentage does it need to represent of your total budget, all that kind of stuff. It's not something we've talked too much about. So so it's a really interesting topic, and I think I'd love to you to a little bit kick it off, if you can, Jenster, and then
of course.
we'll take it from there.
Nice one. Another nice segue. Lay it up, slam it down. So I was checking out the 2025 CMO Survey that was done. They do this every year, cmosurvey.org, if anyone wants to check it out. And they did, they focus a little bit on the Martech side of marketing and what marketing people are seeing. Now, this is an American-heavy survey, so take that for what it is. But some interesting statistics that came out of it. 24% of marketing budgets go towards Martech, which is, almost a quarter of your budget, which I think is kind of crazy, but makes sense. That number is expected to go to 55% in 5 years. So over half your marketing budget is expected to go towards your Martech in the next 5 years, which is bonkers. But 49% of marketers are saying they're not getting what they were hoping out of their Martech. So even though we're getting towards this, right now we're around a quarter of our budget being spent on Martech, 50% of those people using Martech aren't getting what they were hoping out of it. And actually 44% of tools are never used. 44% of the tools that you buy, people are not actually using. So I thought that was really interesting when we talked about our SaaS episode, where, there's a lot of those zombie tools that are just there and you're paying for, you're not using. I think it's a really interesting statistic that we're headed towards 55% of our budgets going towards tools that most of us probably don't even know we have. So this survey, out of it, there was another study that came up with 10 ways to kind of get the most out of your Martech. So I thought we could go through those one by one and talk a little bit about what our experiences are in respect to those, and maybe a lot of anecdotes, which is most of what we come up with. But
no, it's good. And I think it's a little bit terrifying that it's that high, right? Like, I don't think that's for every team out there, but I think I've definitely seen teams where the Martech stack is so big and so heavy, and you're like, okay, but what do you spend on distribution? Almost nothing. I was like, okay, there's something off here.
Yeah, there's more going towards tools than actual, ads
marketing.
Or campaigns, which is bonkers.
You're more obsessed with tracking the results than producing them.
Absolutely.
Boom.
There it is. There it is. And thank you for listening. No. So I guess maybe let's start before we dive into these 10 tips. Martech, talk to me. How's your Martech life been as a marketer?
Chaotic. I would say. I think I'm a tool guy. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm less of a tool guy
quite
these
a tool.
days.
You are a big tool.
Wow. Okay, that was smooth.
Thank you.
I used to be when I was on in-house and I was a bit more of a specialist style. I was way more of a tool guy than I'm at today. Like not because I don't use a lot of tools today, but I don't have the same time today to explore and test new tools as I did back then. Just to be transparent.
And
it doesn't mean
I think that's a really good point. Sorry, is this? I would be really interested to see how much time is spent finding tools, getting requests for tools, getting them approved, getting trained. Like that would also be like, we talk budgets, but let's also talk about how much time we spend every time we get a new tool.
I think that's the interesting part, because like some of the clients we have, and without mentioning any names, but like some of the clients we have, they have insane rigorous processes for getting tools approved. We literally have a client where we've been trying to get a tool approved for almost a year, and it's a cheap tool. It doesn't cost much. It doesn't really change much. It's like it's gonna be nice. It will actually add a lot of value. Costs $20 a month or something. Doesn't infringe on anything as far as I know. So
$20 a month.
Yeah, it's a small one. So my point is just, but that tool hasn't been approved for a year. So I think there's definitely part of an approval process that's just weird, especially like the larger organizations. You can easily imagine. The larger you get, the longer these things take, right? But that's I've never worked in a big corporate or anything like that, so I've never tried that process. But that's also part of the reason I haven't.
Yeah. I mean, I most of the companies I've been in have required that process of our customers, right? So,
yes.
Okay, now we're going to change our customer support software, where that is obviously incredibly important. So it's a really rigorous procurement. You have to do RFPs, you have to do RFQs, you have to do legal documents, make sure you have all the right certifications. Like there's so much to do. And we got a tool which everyone would have heard of. I'm not going to name names because I actually quite like the tool, but it took us 6 months. Like once we had it, we had agreed, but then we had, because it was a data tool, we had to do all the back data and like update the data. And it took about 6 months of getting it ready before we could actually use it for its intended purposes. So you're paying monthly. And I think we had like a little break for the first 3 months, but it took 6 months of getting it up and ready to actually see an impact. And then by that point, you're like, am I getting value for this? Am I like, what the hell? Right?
Yeah.
Cool. And so I think we're not alone in that.
We're definitely not alone. I think one of my biggest pet peeves, or one of the things, I think if you have listened to some of our previous episodes, the one we did recently with Katrine as a guest, is a perfect example of that, right? Like we just talked about before we went live here. It's like I meet quite a lot of marketeers, and especially there are this like breed of marketeers who are like when a strategy becomes equal to a tool. It's like when you suddenly like ABM, ABX, I think that's the example. It's like you can't do ABM, ABX without domain base or 6 Sense or stuff like that. And I'm like, that in my world, that's complete horseshit. Like
I think Katrina proved it. Like they're doing ABX really well without any fancy tools.
Without any fancy tools. And it's kind of like this like Marvel quote like from Iron Man. If you're nothing without the suit, you're nothing with it, right? Boom. I keep dropping these today.
You really are doing well this morning.
But I think it's the same. Like if you can't do like your strategy or marketing stuff without the tool, then the tool's not going to fix it. I think that's kind of like the core of what I'm trying to say. Is just like a lot of people go to tools for fixing a problem, but sometimes it's like if you haven't even done the bare bones minimum to fix whatever problem it is you're facing, the tool is not going to take you 100%
fix
there.
It. And I think we're starting to get into these 10. So let's maybe start talking about it, because that's a really good point. So the first tip they give is to not focus so much on budget. And this is actually, it's so stupidly obvious, but I've seen this so many times. Expensive doesn't mean better. Yes. So the more expensive tool doesn't automatically mean that you're going to get more out of it. So you have to look past the spending and more about how this is actually going to help you. It's kind of a no-brainer, but it's true. People often think if I pay more, it must be better.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, exactly. I don't have anything to add. I think it's just like some of the expense. Yeah, I think it's just. I think there's a tag with some of the tools, like some stuff like HubSpot, stuff like your marketing automation system. Like you pay for quality in that sense, but so, and there of course that is an element, but there's also tools where I'm like, it really doesn't have to cost this much. Like I don't know, like it really, for what it's doing, whatever it is, like there's definitely tools out there where they're priced way too heavily. I think that's also in general like a SaaS problem. Like SaaS has just gone way up in pricing. Like it's also like for all these Martech tools, they know they've been sitting on a gold mine, or they're sitting on a gold mine on some of it. So they've been raising prices every year. So some of the things that you used to be able to get for $10,000 a year, well, now that's $30,000, $40,000 a year. that really hurts if your budget is not that big.
Yeah, absolutely. The next one is and probably another kind of obvious one, but another one that I've encountered of kind of making sure your tool is actually for company objectives rather than things like, well, our competitors use this one, so we need to use it, or this is the newest. And I think especially in this world of AI, this is the newest tool. We got to try this new tool, like the shiny object syndrome. And this survey found that, if you avoid that and you actually use it for strategic reasons, you're going to have 20% higher usage rates and actually much better impact, which kind of makes sense. But I think
Totally
many of us have fallen into the shiny object syndrome.
I have myself, and I think you have too, right? Like, let's just be honest. Like, I think, let me give a concrete example, right? So back when I used to work for Templify, so these days way back in the day, but Segment, Segment, the tool, like a CDP, like a customer data platform, that was all the rage. Yep. And back then it was mainly, and I know this now, but maybe didn't know that clearly back then, but it was mainly built for e-commerce, B2C companies, and it could also be used in B2B, and people were starting to use it in B2B, and that was like the new thing. So I was like, okay, we got to get a CDP. So I worked really hard at Templify. And now, don't get me wrong, like I think it could have done something cool, but and we didn't end up doing it because for reasons and stuff like that. And then I think it was right at the cusp where I was about to leave as well. But I think my point is also just to say, like, it was, for me, that was like, oh, that's the golden star where we need to get to. And I think my vision was correct, but my way to get there was inaccurate. Because the tool was not the solution. The solution was alignment internally and figuring out the processes and stuff like that. That was the actual thing we needed to do, not buy that tool. And we didn't end up buying it. But and looking back, I was like, we shouldn't have bought that tool. That wouldn't have been the right play anyways.
And I think that actually brings us really well to the next one. Speaking of which, and this has been my experience too, is that Martech tools, and this is number 3, it tends to get siloed in marketing. Like, this is just to help marketing, but marketing is more effective when it is tightly woven throughout the organization, right? And there's so many times we buy a tool, but actually we need input from sales, we need input from product, we need input from people to see if this is the right tool. But no, it's a Martech, so it's a marketing tool. But actually, if you look at how it impacts the broader organization, is this really what you need?
Yes, totally agree.
And if it is, then you're going to be happier with it.
But I think a lot of it has also to do with the fact that, like, a lot of these tools are locked in when it comes to licenses, right? Like, I also just want to defend ourselves just for 1 second. Like, as an example, when we work with clients, we always say, give us access to everything you got. Like, we want as much as possible, right? And they're usually pretty willing to do that. But most of the time, they're also saying, like, hey, but we can, like, do all your, like, 5 people need access to this one? Because it's 5 licenses, and, you know, that gets pricey.
Paper license,
Paper license, like, so I think there's a lot of validity in that, but it's also, like, I understand sometimes why it's hard. Like, I would love to sit in on sales tools. I use a lot of the sales tools especially when it's in-house. I was like, hey, give me access to all this stuff you guys have. But it is, like, it's a fine line, because I also think one point I want to make is just, like, you can also, just like you can with dashboards and data, you probably felt that, like, you can drown in too much. Like, too much data is not good. True. Like, if you don't look at the right metrics, it doesn't really matter that you have all the metrics, right? And I think the same with tools. If you have, like, 100 tools, it's like, okay, but which one do I really need to be a part of? Yeah. Like, if I have to pick one, like, my salespeople, dude, you have to obsess over HubSpot. Like, obsess over HubSpot. That's the one I would probably want. Like, no HubSpot, no my HubSpot, man. Then I'm okay with you not knowing how this other weird tool I have over here on the side works, right? But if you know my HubSpot, then that's what I would want from you as a salesperson, as an example, right?
I think I totally take that point on. Like, we've had tools too where it's like, if sales want access, then that means we have to spend more. So can you pay for your own licenses out of your budget so that we don't have to pay? And then it becomes this big thing. And
it's weird, right?
Yeah. And I think, most of the tools that we have, we did 6 Sense, right? And that was marketing. We push it through. And then, of course, it impacts sales. And sales are like, what the hell am I supposed to do with that? And then, of course, their usage plummeted, because I find also, especially with salespeople, when you have that system of, like, make all these calls and send all these emails, they have a lot of pressure on them. And all of a sudden, if you introduce a new step or you introduce a new thing they have to do, you really need their buy-in. You can't just go, oh, hey, by the way, guys, your process now has to change to suit this tool that we bought without checking with you. So that's also going to impact the usability. And that's what we saw with 6 Sense. Sales never used it. Sales didn't react to it. Sales didn't buy into the process that we set up, which is our fault for not getting them involved earlier. And it died. And then we canceled the contract, and it was a ton of money and time wasted.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's just, I think that's a general thing about tools. It's one of the things I really, I think I've told this story, I might have told this even on the pod before, but I think Christian Lund, one of the founders of Templify, he taught me this at one point, and I think it's one of the best things I've ever learned is probably, if your tool isn't part of the normal workflow, like isn't part of your day-to-day work, if you don't integrate it so it becomes part of your natural day-to-day work, it's really hard to change people's habits.
Yeah.
Like changing like, hey, now before you did this, now you have to do this, this, and this in order to do this. It's like, whoa, that's complicated. Now, and I think that's one of the reasons I keep using Templify here, but like that one of the reason it's been successful was like people were already using Word, they're already using PowerPoint, so now it's just a part of your PowerPoint flow, so it doesn't have to change. And I think that learning that, so like figuring out how your tool becomes part of your day-to-day and not just another thing you have to go to your browser, open a tab, pull out and like go and dig, that's where people are missing. Like a lot of the tools, that's literally for me, that's the tool graveyard. If you don't manage to integrate it into the proper workflows, then they just die. Like they don't become used. I think the classic example is like, there's like digital asset management, these like tools like Binder.
I was going to use an example. Yeah.
Exactly. Those tools are perfect because like the tool is amazing. They can do all this cool stuff, but a lot of them still require that you open your browser, go to it, open the folder and find the stuff. And like people just don't do that.
And that's a perfect example because we had Seismic, which is a competitor of Binder. We were looking for a digital asset management tool for sales enablement, making their lives easier. And then you can track what they open and then we can measure that. And the
intention is right?
Yeah, it was perfect. And we saw a bunch of tools. We talked to Binder, we talked to a few, but the one that made us choose Seismic, which was way more expensive, was they had a HubSpot integration. And I said to the salesperson, I said, look, this is the thing we need. I need my BDRs to stay within HubSpot where they live their whole life in HubSpot. I don't want them out of HubSpot. And he was like, no, it's fully integrated. They don't have to leave. Bought the tool. We were like, great. I showed it to sales. Sales were like, yeah, this is perfect. We'll use this. And then in the onboarding flow where we had like everyone in a room, like the whole company came into a giant room, we had the big screen and they were onboarding us and they're like, okay, so to embed this content into your email flow, you go into Seismic, you click this button and then you bring it in. And I'm like, excuse me. Hi. Yeah, no, that's not what you promised us. And this is not what we were told. And so we tried it anyway. It was too late. We had signed the contract. And just the act of going out of HubSpot into this other tool, copying a link and going back in completely impacted the BDR team's flows. It slowed down their calls. It slowed down their emails. And we canceled the contract, I think, 3 months in because it was just months wasted because this one tool just really impacted efficiency. So
that's exactly, and I think it also like one of the things you also when it goes the other way around, like there's also puts a lot of responsibility on tools like HubSpot and Salesforce, Pardot, all those kind of tools, is that they are like almost determining the success of tools, like external tools, right? Like if HubSpot decides, hey, we're not gonna make that integration easy, right? Like then as you say here, then you cancel the contract, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's such a good point. It's there's big players that are setting the standard, right?
They're setting the standard for what tools are allowed to somewhat exist, right? They can't always control it, but that's part of it.
That your tool has to be shit hot to get me to use it in addition to the stuff I use every day.
Exactly.
Yeah. But let's move on to the next one is getting the right people involved, which I think kind of is a no-brainer. But actually in this example, they talk about how IT are deciding what tools teams should use. And I've seen that a little bit where they have slowed things down because tools that we want don't necessarily integrate with what they have. But and the other point that they have here is that we're not hiring people who are experts in these tools. So even though knowing how these tools, like we have a lot of people have HubSpot experts or CRM experts, but do people have a Dream Data expert or do people have in-house people who really know how to get the most out of these tools? Probably not. You spend your lunchtime learning it and then you go, right?
Yes. I think like the last point about like in-house specialists for tools, it has to be a bigger problem. Like it has to be, like, you have to be in a large organization for that to, in my world, to be a big problem. I would never in a 200 man organization hire a dream data expert. Like, no hard feelings to her. I love dream data, but it's just like you need to be able to do other stuff, right? Like it's just so it's good to have it on your CV, but I think but HubSpot makes sense because it's such an integral part of the core. Like it's the core of what you do, or whatever CRM marketing automation system you use, the Eloqua, Pardot, all those, Marketo, all that stuff, right? That makes sense to me, but other fringe tools is a little bit different. I think the IT point is really interesting because like I've been so annoyed with that.
Yep.
I think, and for me, it's not just IT. It's like IT/procurement.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't know, man. But it's like so what they typically look at. They look at does it integrate with our current tech stack? I do get that. That's a good question, and that's like a thing. And then there's the whole like, does it live up to our compliance regulation, like ISO, if they're ISO certified, where the server's hosted, all that jazz. Like, don't get me wrong, like without spilling anyone's beer here, that's not really what I care too much about. Like, it's not my first question in a talk, but I understand why it's important. I like understand why it's part of the conversation. But everything beyond that is weird to me. I think, like, I understand why you ask those two questions, like, hey, tech stack, and you ask about compliance. Those tech questions, because a marketeer probably doesn't ask all those.
No,
no,
and we probably should the most.
We probably should, though, to be completely honest. But when it starts to become like usability and features, like IT and like procurement stuff, like, no hard feelings, get the fuck out of here. Like, I decide what features I need, like in my for our marketing team. Like so I don't know if you found that to be the case as well, but I found that to be, that's when it gets weird for me, because like the other two ones that make sense, but yeah, everything beyond that's just weird.
Yeah, and this is also kind of bleeding into the next point, but I think, you know, empowering marketing leadership to be part of the decision making. I've not really I think in terms of like switching the company project management tool, right? Like, so I've been at a company, we were using Asana. Asana, I think, is very marketing friendly. It's easy, drag drop. I like the tasks and I like the way things are lined up, but that didn't work for the tech team. So they moved us to Confluence. And that is not a very, that's not a marketing brain. My marketing brain could not really figure out Confluence. Atlassian, like, it's different. And so we were kind of forced, but I don't know the best way, because we couldn't use that tool to the best of our ability. But if we all have different tools, then we can't work together. So
it's also a mess, right? Yeah. And
it's a mess.
I do get that point. Like, it's a good point. Like, and I think, when do you cross the line of saying, like, when here you need a separate tool just for marketing in this case, or like, and I think project management is a good example of that. Like, I've used Monday before, but Monday is not is great for, especially for marketing and those kind of projects, but it's not. I don't think you would ask a developer to use Monday. They wouldn't love it, right?
No, exactly.
So they're like, yeah, we're on Jira. I'm like, and they're like, you should use Jira. I'm like, yeah, sure, but I don't like Jira for marketing. It's just so. Like, when do you cross that line? And I don't think, I personally don't have a good answer. I also understand why it exists, like why there's some issues here. What I don't I find interesting is like when it actually starts way earlier. Like, your organization, I found organizations that are like 30, 50 people, where I'm like, why am I fighting like 3 months to buy this tool? Like, you guys have 30 people. Like, come on. Like, let's go.
It's just going to make me... Yeah, it's going to make life easier. I've also had, and I'm having this particularly now that I've changed into a more kind of corporate organization, is the security. Yes. So, for example, anything, like, I tried to get Calendly because I have to book meetings with portfolio companies, and it's just a pain in the ass. So I just want to say, like, here, book me. I can't. It's blocked. And there's been a bunch of other tools that I'm like, it's free. It'll help me be so much more efficient. It's like, if it's blocked, you have to submit a ticket and someone has to look at it and assess it. And it's just like, I can't be bothered.
No.
Yeah. So but I understand why it's there. And when I was at Plan Day, just talking about these project management tools, we had Hive, we had Trello, we had Asana, we had Confluence, and some people were using Jira. So we had 5 different project management tools, and then management are wondering why we had a really hard time collaborating and how we had a really hard time aligning, because I would send an Asana task, but no one could open it outside of marketing. They would send us something in Jira, which we were like, well, this isn't code and I don't like it. This is gray and black. And so, I don't think we have an answer for that.
No, and I think it's an interesting point, and we're going a little bit off rails here, but just allow me just for one sec, because like I think it's the question of like I always I made a really cool I have a really cool friend called Joey, who's like a lawyer expert, anyways, and he talked to me about this like matrix of risk, like, and I think it's like, so how risky is, like, how likely is that this would happen, like a scenario, and how damaging would it be? That's like the kind of 2 angles of the matrix, right? And then, so for you to use Calendly, for that to go in and impact, like for some, like how likely is it that fucks up your GDPR or something in the business? I don't know, very unlikely. And so would it be super damaging? Like it would be a bit damaging, so I guess, so pretty much damaging, but it's also very unlikely to happen. So in that case, we'd be like, he would be like, fuck it, just do it, right?
Yeah, it's
so
worth
if it's
it.
very likely and very damaging, then you have a problem. That's the only ones you react to, essentially. And I think it's just when I think my point is trying to make, like, in organizations, because like also the slowdown, nobody's talking about measuring the slowdown.
Yeah.
Like, what does it actually mean for the organization that you have to book your own, in this case, book your own meetings, that you have to ask for tools for permission, that you can't use this tool? No, it's not really a math question, because I guess, my math brain can't do it. But like, what does the organization lose? Because nobody's talking about that. Like, we only talk about like, like the boundaries, and that's the right thing because we don't get security. But what if this meant like 30% more productivity?
Yeah,
then I'd be
and
like,
it's something
I would risk it in a heartbeat, right? Like,
and that's something I say to my portfolio companies is, if you were paid hourly and you broke down every hour that you're spending and what you're spending it on, what are you getting paid to do? Are you getting paid to book meetings and rebook meetings? Oh, sorry, that slot's now taken. Can we do this time? Can we do that time? You know, the amount of time it takes for me to book meetings, if I was paid hourly, I think that we would probably reprioritize a little bit of how much time is spent. But one of the things that Verdane does very well is we do track our hours, and then we have different KPIs. So it's like reduce admin time by X amount. And so they see how much time we spend on admin, and then they'll bring in initiatives to reduce that. So I think that's a really good thing to be doing. It's and most companies don't do that. So I think that's just something to think about. If you're in your company or if you're IT, if people were paid hourly, how would the breakdown of how you're spending your time?
I also think it matters, and this is not, it's going to sound a little weird, but it's also, for me, it's a little bit of a generational thing. And I know it's
ageist.
I'm going to be a little bit ageist now, and I don't mean like it's not ageist necessarily, but it's more saying I found that some of us, like our breed of people, we've grown up with tools. Like I'm used to a world where I use a massive amount of tools. I come from a gaming background, right? You know, a gaming background. I used to use Ventrilo for talking with my raid members, and WoW. Like I'm used to chat before chat was a thing. Like like I'm used to using tools for everything. So having a big tool stack is normal to me. Like it's, and I think some of the people who've set these IT agendas have not been normalized to using a lot of tools. Now they are today, most likely it's changing, but I think if you look 10 years back, then it was like, okay, we only use Microsoft, and like Microsoft's the only thing we use. I'm like, okay, cool, then we can't do anything, right?
Fun.
SharePoint's great. Yeah, keep using SharePoint.
Oh, it's so great. Yeah, I can find stuff so easily. Next one, I think this is a no-brainer, but it's bringing AI to the Martech table, right? And making sure that your Martech can use AI to be more optimized and things like that. That's kind of a no-brainer. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but
no, not really.
Just use AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Start adopting
just do
AI.
It. Yeah.
This one I think is interesting. And this, again, something we don't really do in general in marketing is thinking long-term impact. So many times we get tools to generate more leads, to find more SQLs, but actually, if you incorporate it more into what is the long-term customer satisfaction, improving loyalty, improving lifetime value, these tools tend to be used longer. They tend to be more impactful. And and this was something that 60% of companies said that they don't do. And
I think it's just I think honestly, one of the things this ties into this is that I think historically, and this goes for marketeers as well. I think we as marketing people, or we're really bad at building business cases. That's what I'm trying to get to. Like I found that like if you were to build the business case for a tool, then you would think about the long term. Like when you buy a tool, then you sit down and say, okay, what is the actual impact of buying this tool? But nobody really does that. They go like, I want this tool. It's going to be this much. I have the budget. I'm going to do it.
Yeah. It's going to help me make more comment, make more leads, make more content. Exactly. Yeah. End.
Instead of just like taking a moment like, hey, I built this slide deck. This is why I believe we need this tool. Here's what it's going to impact. This is the short term, long term. Like, so just taking a step back, and it goes back to this whole like people are, in my opinion, are really bad at convincing other people to do stuff. It's like, and building the business case to buy a tool, that's a classic, it's a sales thing. You're selling the idea of buying a tool to someone else who's like IT, who's like, they got plenty on their plate. They really don't want you to go ahead and fuck up some shit. So you need to convince them that this is important. And that's a skill.
I think it's a skill, and I think that also ties into how we look at marketing and sales in general, right? We don't do the long-term planning. We talk about this all the time in the podcast. It's like marketing is short, medium, and long-term. So yes, short-term, let's get a lot of webinar attendees. Let's get a lot of leads to sales. But actually long-term is we need to develop our awareness in the market. We have to be trusted. We have to be, a thought leader. That takes time. But so often we're so forced to do short-term, month-on-month targets. And I think that influences also our ability to get people to be okay with tools that don't necessarily help that part. But actually, it's a long-term project. We don't have that long-term vision sometimes in leadership that trickles down to the rest of us. So,
yeah, cool.
The next one is infusing creativity to bolster Martech impact. And this one I think is a very interesting one because we don't talk a lot about being creative to solve problems. So the question that they were asked was, my organization's long-term success depends on its ability to foster creative ideas that can transform the business. And again, we talked a little bit about this in our creativity episode, but do we get to be creative? Can we see, maybe I think it leads into the previous point of like big picture stuff. How do we do big picture and be creative of how we get there, and how do we find tools to get us there?
Gotcha. No, I totally agree. I don't have too much to add here, but I totally agree. Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
I think we're running out of time. How many do
we
you have
are
left?
running out of time. There's 2 more.
Okay, good. Let's do it.
Yeah. So customer focus, again, I think it comes into how little we look at customers at the end, but using tools that can measure customer engagement, customer satisfaction, how customers are using the product can be pulled further up into the funnel to marketing, right? To figure out what are the tools that work, what are the tools that are having an impact, or the features, and using tools that can measure that and pulling that into the Martech stack, I think is something that we should be doing, but we rarely do because we're so siloed.
I agree.
This is the quietest you've been.
No, but like, it's just, I agree, but it's not like, you said it in the beginning, it's an American study, and I feel like this is sometimes there's always a saying, like when you read American books, they get paid per word. I feel like this is the part of like, we
there's
get
some
paid
repetitive
per
ones here.
This is a little bit repetitive because to me, like, yes, it's important, but would I list it as the most important? Probably not, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. So the last one, which probably you do have an opinion on, is to audit your Martech systems more regularly.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, let's go.
So we ended on a strong one because it says most people surveyed only perform their audit every 6 months.
Okay, I do think every 6 months is solid though. Like,
you think it's solid? Yeah.
I think that is actually not too bad. Like maybe it should be every quarter, but I was afraid it was like every year or something. Like
I guess, I mean, a lot of times it's the set it and forget it, right? And it's gone and it's running. And are we getting the most out of it? Should we upgrade? Should we downgrade? But then again, it comes into efficiencies, right? And that's the thing.
Yeah.
If I'm, the VP of marketing and I have a team of 14 people and I have targets and I have meetings, but I also have to keep an eye on this bloody tool and if I'm getting enough out of it and what's the latest feature and what else is out there. I don't have time for that. It's almost like you need a full-time Martech expert to keep doing research and to keep going, are we getting the most out of this? There's a new tool now that's come out, right?
It's so insane. Like we literally, like we are 32 people or something now. And like, I feel like literally every day, that's so long. And literally every day I feel like we are dumping tools, strategies, hacks, and like, so the tool part in Slack or like, hey, have you heard of this tool? Hey guys, try this tool. I'm like, every day. I feel like it's almost like, if not every day and every second day, like it's just like almost every day I feel like, okay, here's something new. And like we're all looking at each other. So who's got the ball in testing this bad boy? You test or you test? Like, because I can't keep up, man. Like I get this like AI newsletter with new AI tools being released, and every week they have like these 20 new tools in AI. I'm like, 20, please.
Yeah, I am on the there's an AI for that mailing list.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
It's every single day. I'm like, oh, these sound so cool. And we also have like an AI group at Verdane. And it's great. Like people are like, have you heard of this? Have you heard of this? We're building this. We're doing this agentic AI. And I'm like, that's awesome. When do I have time? And portfolio companies are like, I'm thinking of getting this tool. I'm thinking of getting this tool. And it's like, maybe that's a job of the future for marketing is like Martech researcher or Martech in-house expert.
As an agency, you probably get that asked too. Like, what do you think about this tool? I'm like, I've tried the 9 other ones that are similar, but I haven't tried exactly that one. But
is it good value for money? I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure. I want to leave on one note. I want to talk about one thing. It's just like the percentage spent on Martech. I think if there's one thing you should really I would love people to start thinking about it's the classic 80-20. I think if you're spending, in my opinion, 80% of your marketing budget should approximately go to distribution. And then distribution comes in lots of shapes and forms. It could be events, it could be Facebook spend, it could be Google Ads, it could be you blog writing or something. For me, that's also all piles into some sort of distribution. But if you're spending like less, then you have a problem. And I think what a lot of people should do is just like have a matrix where just like, okay, Martech percentage, this much, and then distribution, this much, salary, this much, and so forth, right? And just split it up like that. And then that's the percentage you need to use as your guiding light. So whenever you're thinking about, I am buying this tool that will fuck up this percentage, what do I cut?
Yeah.
Go in and go with the mantra saying like, I can't make room for this unless I cut something else. Then that will make it healthier, at least from my perspective.
And that's interesting. So we do a marketing survey of all of our portfolio companies to get benchmarks. And just to put that into perspective, so our benchmark within our portfolio is that 40% of budget goes on headcount and about 43% goes on activities. And then the rest is between agencies, tools, and other.
I think that's pretty accurate. I think, and that also makes sense in the size of companies you invest in. Yeah. But I think when you're a little bit smaller, scrappy, scale-up size, I would advocate for even more
towards
on pure
activities.
Distribution. Yeah, just pure activities. Yeah. But at least that allocation, what you just explained, also that also makes a lot of sense in my world. But it's just you can't have like I've seen cases where it's like 80-20 the wrong way, or like 80% on tools, salaries and stuff. And then it's like, okay, we have 10-man team that's managing $5,000 a month in spend. It's like, it's not.
Yeah. I've seen that as well. We had a portfolio company. It was something like 80% of their budget was on headcount. And you're like, what are they doing? Like,
that's not smart,
you only have 20% of your budget for anything else. So maybe that's the main takeaway of split out your budget, how much you want to spend. And I think also the main takeaway, to get the most out of your tools, you need internal alignment first.
Yes.
Not just like the first step is get internal alignment and see if you even need a tool. Take Katrina, listen to our ABX episode. They don't need a tool to do well with ABM. They just have really good alignment, aligned targets and things like that. And then the next step would be, okay, if we're going to get a tool, make sure it's something that's going to help everyone and work for everyone's workflows, right? And how they do their ways of working.
A good question sometimes is if this was your own money, would you buy this tool?
Yeah. And right now it is your own money, right, Casper?
Yeah, right now, trust me. Yeah, and there's multiple tools. I'm like, nope, it's not worth it, right?
Cool. All right, guys. Well, enjoy this summer episode. We hope you're having lovely summers.
Yes,
and
enjoy it.
Don't think about Martech now. Just wait till you get back.
Don't think about it. Wait till you get back. We'll fix the shit then.
We'll fix it by then. It'll be new tools by then.
New tools, new AI. See ya. Thanks.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.